for me, it's important. Always have fun with whatever you do, and that I think counts. It doesn't matter how serious the problems you have to deal with. I don't know how your career plan is. You should still have fun on your way to get there where you want to be, because then it gives you the power, the energy to do all what you need to do to get to the point where you want to be at one point.
This podcast is brought to you by ISU Corp. Are you having trouble with your software projects? Is there a project that's taking too long or a technology you can't handle? We can help. We are ISU Corp, experts in custom software since 2005. With almost 20 years of experience, we can solve any technical problem from new businesses to satellite software. We've done it all. Let us turn your ideas into reality. Learn more about how we can help by visiting us at www.isucorp.ca. Your solution starts here.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Leaders in Tech, where we're shining the light in this world with leaders that are really making a difference in the companies they are working at and their technical teams. Today we have with us Joel Fidalgo. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, David. Hi, welcome.
Joel, for the audience, can you give me your full name? Where do you live and what do you do for a living?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, my name is Joel Fidalgo. I'm living in Aachen, Germany, and I'm the CIO of NextPharma.
NextPharma. What are you guys doing at NextPharma?
Yeah, NextPharma is a contract manufacturing and development organization within Europe, focusing on pharmaceutical developments, all kind of dosage forms, more or less everything you can get in the pharmacy, and with only a few exceptions, I would say. And I mean, of course, the brand itself you will not see, because we just work on behalf of our customers and develop and produce the products for them.
Right, so you're business to business, so you're behind the scenes.
Correct. Yes.
That is amazing. A lot of people don't get that. You know, the front-facing products and services a lot of the times has great companies behind that make it happen, right?
Absolutely.
Joel, have you lived all your life in Germany?
Yes, lived all my life in Germany. I spent a lot professional life in projects outside the world, in US, in Saudi Arabia, across Europe, but my home was always Germany.
That's wonderful. So to get to a position where you are CIO of such an important enterprise must have taken a while and a lot of trials and tribulations, but I would love to begin taking a trip back to the past. Where were you in high school and what was your objectives? What did you want to do after graduating high school?
I think it's an interesting point. Go back to that. So when I was in school and in high school at that point in time, I think I was always had the affinity for technology. I was always interested in technology. That was the early PC times, where it was a lot of also you put your PC stuff together, right? You build your own stuff, not going off the shelf at that time. And actually, I really started as an apprenticeship in the electrical business. So really electrical wiring, building main board, smaller pieces. So it was really an apprenticeship start. And also during the apprenticeship, I already figured I want to do a little bit more afterwards, and therefore went back to school for another year and then started studying electrical engineering with focus on information technology. And so I always had a very strong technical background, electrical engineering background, and then stepped my foot into the side of information technology. And I think it was more luck in the beginning that my interest started with SAP and IT security, and I went into the consulting business with then a focus of SAP and security. And from there, it took several turns, kind of, when I'm looking back, right? So now, starting from that position into more broader consulting business and business process management, IT project management, and step by step, then over the years changed and broadened my skills, and eventually ended up at the position where I am today.
That's amazing, Joel. But you know, electrical engineering, it's interesting to see, especially where where you were brought up and when you went to school, it was very common to have electrical engineers becoming IT professionals, and it's hard to see the relationship. But I guess back then we didn't have a lot of careers at university that would focus only on information technology, right?
Yeah, true. It started, but it was really focused then on program developing. But I would say the majority was very tight at that time still to electrical or engineering kind of roles. That's true. Yeah.
When I went to college, I did 2 computer science degrees. The first one, I was blessed at the university, even back in 1988. Imagine how old I am. They had a bachelor's of information science and information technology. So I did that. And then when I came to Canada, I had the choice I had to redo my education because they wouldn't validate anything. So I had the choice to do to an electronics engineering side, or to go on information technology again into the information management. So I took the information management cycle. But a lot of my friends went to the electronic cycle and electric engineering. And it's incredible to see that at the end, I knew a little bit more about IT management, but I really, both of us didn't really know anything. Once you go into a job, you realize how little you know. You graduate college and you think that you know everything and you're ready. And then the first day of work, you're like, oh my God, how do I do this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think when I look back, what is the things I used from my educational path? There's very little. I would say all the success today is things you learn later and you learn through the job, not the things I learned really in the university. It gives you the baseline, gives you the tool set, but it's not something that I would say is today creating the success of the career. Yeah.
For sure, and I think there is a lot of value, especially for computer engineers and IT professionals, to go through university, just because it gives you, if you go to a good school, they will teach you how to learn, which is, for me, was the most important skill that I learned in university that I still apply today. How do you learn by yourself, right? Also, it teaches you how to work with other people and how to do project work. So there are foundational skills that you may not see them when you're going through, but those are the true skills that you apply at your job, not really the technical parts, because the technical parts, they get obsolete so fast anyways, right? But you do have the foundation, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And as you just said, right, this learn to how to, bring yourself skill up yourself, but also learn to work with others, especially in areas where you might feel not that strong, and you still have to go through it. So find the right people, surround you with the right people. And I think that's also later what is important in your career, is finding the right people that surrounds you, that helps to make a difference, and later also to build your own teams that are set up of this skill set, so that you create really a group of people that can work together and that can make a difference.
For sure. Joel, after you graduated, what do you do? What was your first job?
Yeah, first job I said was jumping into consulting business. In the beginning, a little bit more tech focused, but early on started more interest in project management. And so I put all my efforts to get a little bit more experience into project management, a lot projects around SAP implementations, improvements, and then also scaled up a little bit into process management. So one thing when you start in the SAP side, it's also getting an understanding of what does the business do, right? What is the issues you want to solve here? And that gained a lot of my interest, while the majority time on my consulting business, I spent time really on project management around the SAP side, but also then did smaller projects around process improvements, business process improvements that were not so much technology focused. And that kind of was, I think, also very important for my later career to see how's the business running, right? What is driving in the end the success of a company, and looking into these processes and understand, okay, how can I support them from a technology side, but first understand how the business works.
One of the factors that got me really fast into leadership was that skill set. being able to look back, set back, and analyze the business processes and suggest improvements that may exponentiate the way they do business before you apply technology to them, right?
Correct.
It's so important. So when you were doing SAP consulting, were you by yourself or you were hired by a company?
No, I was hired by a company, and I worked in teams, and I think that was also, and this is where also the time where I spent also time in outside the country, spent a time in most interesting project in Saudi Arabia for over 1.5 years. Was
how was that
going
experience?
in and out.
You had to go live there?
No, we went there 3 weeks in a row, then going back for 1 week home, and flying in back. So that was going in and out on a 3 weeks, 2 week schedule on a regular base.
That's still pretty hard, right?
Yeah, it was still. I mean, that is also, I think, one of the things within a career. Sometimes, yeah, you see. I was still young, so I was full of energy for this. I'm still full of energy, but I think these kind of things may have also changed nowadays. But at that time, it was not unusual. But it was a very interesting time. I worked with a lot of people, different people from all kind of cultures across the world. It was a fantastic project, and I learned a lot in cultural awareness, in leadership, in how to work with people. That was, I think, also a very, very important step as part of my career to understand and working in such an environment.
How was the cultural shock? It must have been very big, right?
Yes, I mean, I think nowadays also it changed a little bit. Also, I mean, Saudi Arabia changed a little bit in the meanwhile. So I'm talking here, this is more than 10 years ago now. But at that time, it was a cultural difference. It was a cultural shock. But I think on the other hand, I'm coming from a multicultural family. I was always, I think, in Europe, you particularly, even, I would say in general, also very open to different cultures. Just the fact it's around a very close area, you have a lot of different cultures. So from that perspective, I was always open for this, and this is why also I think I enjoyed it, and I didn't look on the negative side of it. I looked more on the curiosity side and on the interesting side, and what this would bring to me. And I mean, enjoyed also the period and the time and understanding the different cultures.
You know, I remember that one time I was flying back from Thailand into Canada, and we did a layover in Abu Dhabi. But I didn't step out. Just by looking at the airport and just seeing over the city was so different that it sparked my interest. Like, oh, I wonder how this Arab world is and how does it operate, right? It's so different. Yeah, and you know, it's true. Like our countries, Western countries are great for that. Where I live in Canada, for example, one of the jobs that I had, I was leading a software team for a large laboratory, coast to coast. We were 500 people when I started working, and we had 25 countries represented in the company. So when you go to lunch, you will see like all this, like the United Nations in the cafeteria, you know?
Yeah, nice.
What did you do after that? After your
so after this years of consulting, at one point, I mean, also private life, family changes, and that where I was looking for an opportunity to be a little bit more settled and see also the other side of the business, right? And I got an opportunity to join in around project and portfolio management focus role in a primary packaging manufacturing business for the pharmaceutical industry. So it was also really my step into the pharmaceutical world. A company, a US-based company called West Pharma that also had a European correspondent and very close where I'm living. So there I started then, joined in 2013 in a position to build up a global project and portfolio management across the IT department. And from there, I stayed there more or less a little bit more than 6 years. And
that was global? You had a global impact there?
Yeah, it was a global role. I was one of the first joining there on a global role. The company also changed from a more regional approach to a more global approach. And that was a very interesting time. The company was fast growing, was an interesting business. And also this kind of business in the behind the scenes, right? B2B, not visible to you, but the products with huge impact to a patient's life as its primary packaging for sterile liquids. And from that perspective, that was a very interesting time. Worked a lot in US and in Europe, also with our Asian side, and developed there through different roles over the period I was there. Took opportunities to do things outside of IT, working with a lot of with the other departments, other functions, looking in how we can better support the business processes. And that was, also I think for me a very interesting time, a very dynamic time, and also a very successful time.
I can imagine you had to do a lot of traveling then.
Yeah, did a lot of travel, much less than in the consulting business, but still a lot of travel, yes.
One of the things that I think is a great skill to have, and this is for the listeners, if you want to grow your career in IT and you're sort of wondering, how do I do it? Go get a consulting job. It's going to show you discipline. It's going to show you that how you actually please the client. People that were consultants and then they go into a different path, they find themselves with a competitive advantage. I did it backwards. First, I went through the corporate world, and then I started my own consulting gig, and that's still what I do. I do custom applications for our clients, but not me, but my companies. But I know one of my best friends. He was my mentor too. He started in consulting exactly like you, and traveling the world, learning really how to add value to your clients. Because when you're a consultant, if the client is not happy, you lose your job.
Correct. Or
right?
You use the assignment. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. So once this guy got into he went to work for an insurance company as a senior leader in technology. He grew fast because he knew how to please his clients, internal clients, where when you grow in the corporate world, you may not see that need of making sure that your internal clients are very, very happy with your products and services, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think also the curiosity, but maybe that's everything, but also within not consulting, but the curiosity to understand and talk to all the different departments, for me was always key. And for me, key driver of success is not really focusing on one thing alone, but also gain an understanding of how does the HR department works, what we can do to support them better, how does the procurement department, how does the production side work. So really getting an understanding of all the department, their needs, and talking to the people, right, going out. And I think coming from consulting, I think it's naturally a little bit easier, because you're coming with this different perspectives, and you have seen this different companies, you have seen how different companies work also in different industries, and you have, I think, a different conversation, and that helps. At least it helped me, because it was like more natural to talk to the people even in the other departments, and to understand what their needs are, what their issues are. Whereas when you start sometimes within a company, in a particular function, you're sometimes a little bit narrowed down to this. But it depends also on the individual, and of course the environment somebody's in.
Yeah, it actually has a big impact on your leadership and your mentors, right? Because if you have a mentor like you, for example, that came from consulting, you're going to instill that culture of service, of making sure your clients is pleased to your employees, without necessarily they having to go through that, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And this is also what I encourage my team: talk to the people, understanding the issues, really going out there, being present, not the IT being somewhere in a basement without windows. No one knows that they exist, right? So this time a long time gone. I think it's very important to be present at the sites, present at the people, and understanding first line what's going on in the business.
For sure. What do you do after the pharma packaging company?
Yeah, so then I started in the company where I'm currently in Next Pharma. So there was the opportunity as setting up a global IT organization. The company, when I joined a little bit more than 4 years back, was a decentralized, organized company, more or less, very autonomous sites, and the leadership got to the point if we want to further grow, if we want to further bring the company forward, we have to change something there. we want to build some stronger capabilities, digitizing our business. And that's kind of how I joined 4 years back, at the beginning as global head of IT, reporting to our CFO. And then after 2 years, promoted into the CIO role, with full part of the executive leadership team. And with the focus to really digitize the business, so start building a team out of internal resources that were existing, finding the right spots for them, and also recruiting some additional resources to build up a well-functioning global IT organization that helps to drive all the projects and improvements we did over the past 4 years, along with a few M&As where we also purchased additional sites integrated into our environment. And that's where we are still in the journey. So I think and this is also, I think, a realization phase. Sometimes when you put a journey on a timeline, you say 3-4 years, what you achieve, and you can achieve a lot, but there's so many movements in between that a journey always continues, right? There is never the ending. There's always the next thing you want to go after and you want to improve. And but also with that mindset of continuous improvement. What I found very important, and also to of course always show value, right? Not say in 3 years eventually you see value is not working well. So it's always continuously working on something that provides value back to the business.
So important, and that goes back also to your consulting life. You have to show that you're adding value from day one. I mean, you got to figure out ways to divide the project in small chunks so that you start delivering, and the business will actually see, oh yeah, our investment is paying off already, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's dividing in different pieces, some running longer, and value creation is later, but you cannot keep it all on this long-running projects. You need to have short-term, mid-term project that creates value on the way, and therefore show also that really changes can move the business forward, and not only waiting for the one big thing that eventually pays off in a few years.
For sure. Isn't it amazing that one job leads you to a next job and you bring all the skill set, but you still need to learn more, right? There isn't a place where you go and like, oh, I know how to do this, right?
Absolutely, and I mean it's like being you going and changing the business, even so it's still around the pharma business, and you bring some knowledge with you. You always learn new things. You always have to be open to learn new things, and the business are still slightly different, being different ownership structures, right? Coming from a public traded company, going into a private equity owned company. This changes the way how the business works, or even particular the organization, the structure. There's a lot of things that you need to be open and to able to adapt and be flexible also, because the things are not the same if you go from one company to another. And you can bring your good experience with you, but you have to be also, I think, always be humble and make sure that you really start again learning what is the current situation and how can I improve the current situation at where I am.
I think humbleness is the key, Joel. When you come and you think that you already own the place and you know because of your experience you're Superman, that will prevent you from learning what you need to learn to actually add value, right? And
absolutely.
That humbleness, that humble attitude. I mean, if you look back in my life, when I had the worst trouble is when I did the trouble for myself, because I allowed myself to be proud. And pride, what pride does is that just blocks you from learning more and being more of service, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's something I also want to always try to bring across to my team, and the openness to learn, the openness to enhance. And I think also for me at least, and this is with a growing career, I think you get also more and more people in your team that I would say they have more knowledge in a lot of areas than I have, and it would be always the wrong signal to be there and say this is all my achievement, right? It's always the achievement of the team, and it's a little bit like a coach, right? You have to get and set the people into the right spots so that they are most successful, and then the team in the end brings a result, but it's a team result. And yeah, you kind of a little bit on the bench, on the coach side, and try to make the right decisions, but you take the full responsibility. if it's not working out, that's the other reality.
For sure. Talking about that, what has been the worst problem that you have ever encountered in your career, and how did you get out of it?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think within the career, it's difficult to say. I think there was situations where you sometimes get into, be it that you do the mistakes, and the mistake has a certain impact. For me, the way I really operated with that is always with openness. On the other hand, if you don't accept there will be a mistake, then you have not worked, right? I mean, if you never have done something, of course, you never made a mistake. But if you have done something, for sure you make mistakes. And for me, always was that I was open, or I was also reflecting on my, I would say, mistakes or decisions I have taken. And I also always, at least, this is how I perceive it, and I got it reflected, at least from some others, that I was open, and I'm always open to change my minds, even if I'm going in one direction. And I think what this brought was credibility to the others I'm working with, as I didn't try to hide if I went into the wrong direction and things changes, or I got more information that maybe giving me to the point to say maybe this is not the right way any longer, and we have to change direction and move in another direction. And I never tried to put that on others. So for me, the most difficult things in the career were when something happened and I worried about how this might be impacting potentially my career or other things. But I always worked with openness on this and made clear, okay, maybe there's something that was not as expected. Let's find a way forward. Let's find a solution how to get out of this situation.
And how did you learn that, Joel? Because that nobody teaches you that in life unless you have a very good mentor. Like, how do you learn that?
I think there's a combination. So yes, I had the one or other good mentor. Also, my father is one of a very good mentor. He always helped me to teach in that direction, and being that humble, and also be that open to mistakes that could happen in life. As I never also feel that I got any regressions, right, in case something happens, right, be it on the private life, but also in professional life. And I think I also had a little bit luck with the one or other manager I had in my early career that helped me to go that way, so that I never feared to be open, right? So I think that is something that could have been different if I would have maybe the wrong managers at the beginning. You might get into the situation that you fear that if something happens and that you'll not be open to that. So I think a lot is sometimes also, do you have the right people in your career early time that helps you going in the right path, right? And I think that is kind of how it got to teach to myself, right? It's like be it in private life, also in professional life, surrounded by at least a lot of good people that helped me to encourage that skill set and helped me then to say I want to teach that to my team as well. Right?
That's beautiful, Joel. For me, in my case, I'm a man of faith. I'm a born again Christian, and I love the Lord as my Savior. And it took me a long time to learn what you know, and I had to go to my faith to do it. Right. So if you look at the servant leadership skills that I have, it's just based in the Bible. That's why I'm so amazed that when you're telling me all these skill sets that you have developed and how they were passed on to you, how valuable that is, right? And I know that you're teaching that to your staff. That's why you're so successful already, right? But it's important. It's very important, because I would have, in my personal life, if I would have known that 20 years ago, I would have been in a much higher place as I am right now. And that's okay, because reflecting back, I needed to go through all those trials and tribulations to learn. But the lessons that you just showed me, for me, I had to put my face in the mud many times until I finally realized that openness, humbleness, and willing to say, I messed up, I'm sorry. is the way, right?
Yeah. I mean, and also I need to be fair, right? I think it's also not that it's to the level how it is today, was from the beginning, right? So in the beginning, it's also going through more defensive mode, and sometimes still also to me, it happens that I'm not directly at this point, right? So it takes also me always sometimes a reflection to sometimes get, oh, maybe at this point in time I have not been there. So I would say it's not like that it's always this case, have been through the career, and that it's today still always happening. I would say I make myself pretty much aware of it, and if it's I would say important enough, then I'm also able to reflect on that. But it was not always to that strength, right? So it is in growing strengths. I mean, to your point, I think it's something that develops, right? It's nothing that you could have on 20 years back, just like flip it on, right? So it was not for me the same, right? It's not like you put a switch and it's there, right? It is a developing skill, right? And it's has to develop through the environment.
For sure.
You're working it.
Now, so one thing is about being responsible for your own mistakes, but once you get into a leadership position, now you're responsible for everybody that reports to you, their mistakes, right? How did you do that transition when you were working and you were responsible for your own work, and then somebody gave you the chance to be a leader? How do you transition into that and realizing that now you're responsible for their performance, not only yours?
I think it is always something to remind and be very careful of, that not falling into the trap to say, oh, it's not my fault, right? So that's sometimes that I would say is a potential risk that always every leader has. The same is with success, right? It's not just my success. I think it is something to constantly remind. The good things, it's easier to share, that the team creates some value. It's more difficult if the team screws up. You cannot say the team screws up, right? Then you have to be there. I screwed up, and I have to deal with it. I think that is something that is a constant learning, and it's also for me always reminding the right words, right? Sometimes it's not even what you think, it's sometimes the way how you spell it, right? How you say it. So it's also constantly reminding yourself how you expose that, because on the other hand, you still have to go back to your team and to fix it, right? And help them to fix it. On the other hand, you will never expose this out. And I think it is learning. Sometimes you have to constantly remind on that, but it is something, a skill set to be learned, and feels, I would say, unnatural in the beginning, right? Going back in the earliest times where I had the first people reporting to me, it is unnatural in the beginning. I can remember when there's something happened, it's really unnatural from the first point, saying, oh, it's my responsibility, my fault. I think that's something why, and I had the opportunity, at least, that my teams growed over time. So it was not like I had from one day to another a huge team. So I started with a handful of people that was growing over time. So I had also time to adjust to that and learn to that and take the responsibility. But also there, it's also the environment, right? I had also good examples, good leaders working with me, also on the peer side, where you could see where some people said, I mean, in the end, we don't care who screwed it up, right? Let's work on fixing it, because that is, I think, even the most important thing. I don't want to pull out names. I don't want to pull out teams in the end. Let's get the situation. There was something happen. Okay, how we make sure it's not going to happen again, and how we will go forward with it. Yeah.
Fantastic, Joel. Thank you so much for your time. I know that you're a busy executive, so I don't want to hold you too much. I'm going to ask you one last question before we finish the podcast. If you had access to a billboard in front of the busiest highway on earth, what would you write on
it? That's a good question. I think for me it's important, always have fun with whatever you do, and that I think counts. It doesn't matter how serious the problems you have to deal with. I don't know how your career plan is. You should still have fun on your way to get there where you want to be, because then it gives you the power, the energy to do all what you need to do to get to the point where you want to be at one point.
Yeah, and also that's actually so smart, because also when you get to the point you want to be, there's going to be another point that you will want to be after that. So if you don't have fun in the way, like the way is actually the destination to me, because
Absolutely.
the destination comes and then goes by. It's like moving. It's like a moving train. It's the train of your life. So if you're not having fun in the way over, you're not having fun at all.
Correct. And we spend way too much time on, or not too much time, we spend a lot of time in our life on getting to where we want to be. So if we would not have fun during that period of time and try to have that just outside of it, I think the life would not be worth it.
You know, Joel, I even apply that for my trips. To my actual trips, you know, when my wife and I go somewhere, I tell her, you know, okay, let's start having fun from the minute we leave the house until we actually get there, so that we can start having fun there, you know?
Absolutely.
Joel, if people like to ask you more questions, are you on LinkedIn?
Yes, I am.
Fantastic, Joel. Thank you so much for your time. May God bless you, brother, and have a beautiful rest of the week.
Thanks, you too, David. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Cheers. Have a good one.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to the Leaders in Tech podcast. Check in next week to keep learning how to use technology and leadership to change the game. See you next time.